What is up guys, Andy Forestian Runner here, and today we're talking all things speed. Today we're comparing the Nike Zoom Fly 3 to the Hoka One One RINCON. So welcome back to another video, and today, as I said, we're going to be talking all things speed with the Nike Zoom Fly 3 and of course the Hoka One One RINCON, comparing them, telling you how I've been using them over the past few weeks and how I prefer to use each of these shoes moving forward. But of course, before we do all of that, we'll go through a very quick non-technical overview of each shoe. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new here, and without further ado, let's dive in. So if we go through a very quick technical, non-technical overview of both of these shoes, because of course we have done previous videos, first impressions, tests and full final thoughts on both of these shoes, videos obviously previously on the channel, so you can go and find those if you want to know more information. But today, as I said, we're talking need for speed, head-to-head kind of stuff, how I've been using them, how I will be using them, and the success, and I will say success, that I've had from both these shoes over the past few weeks in particular. So if we start, as always, with the heel ankle area, move our way down and then work to the midsole, outsole, we will keep this brief. Starting with the Nike Zoom Fly 3, we have a very thin heel ankle area with some very thin padding on the inside around the ankle bone just to support it, but the rest of the material is very thin, and I'm guessing that is to shed weight because of course Nike like their lighter weight shoes, but they got it all wrong in the Nike Zoom Fly 3. This thing is obviously heavier for me in my size than the RINCON. So it's a very thin area, very comfortable, there's no tongue, it was all kind of this swimming suit kind of material around here. It's a weird material to try and explain, but it's in all-in-one section, there's no separate tongue. The laces, much better lacing system. That is one thing Nike got right in this version. I did not like the flyer wire whatsoever in the original Zoom Fly. So this thing, I can get a much more dialed fit down. Laces excessively long. Don't know why they need to be that long, but they are. And then of course, the Vapor Weave, the famous Vapor Weave that came out this year. No doubt it will be superseded next year by something else, but at the moment, Vapor Weave is of course all the rave on the next percents. The Nike Zoom Fly 3 has it as well. That goes all the way around the shoe, keeping it nice and lightweight. And I've got to say, I enjoy the material. It's a good material. A lot of people complain they have excess material up here. Not gonna lie, there's a bit of excess material here. You can see the crinkles, the folds. We've got over 150 miles in this shoe already. So there's gonna show a little bit of wear and tear, but it's doing great. And it's a bit muddy too because I've taken it on the trails. And then if we move to the midsole and the outsole, of course, this is where it kind of all went wrong in my opinion. The shoe is very, very, very front heavy. It feels like when you hold the laces, it's a great example. The shoe just dangles straight down and points down, whereas if you hold this shoe, it's much more level, and a lot of shoes should really be like this. The shoe is really, really front heavy. Whatever they're doing with the carbon plate that's in here, which I think it has a carbon plate or a carbon fibre something in here, it is really weighing it down, and it's really noticeable when you're running. That's the one and massive, massive drawback I have with this shoe. But either way, it's got a nice light midsole material. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but then of course we have the rubber outsole in the top and the bottom and some exposed midsole area there. Now of course between the two shoes, this rubber outsole is going to add weight to the shoe compared to the RINCON, which we'll come to now. So the RINCON has, of course, a more cushioned heel area, a bit more padding, which I prefer if I'm honest with you. I have no objection with the thinner material, it's fine, but I get much more of a comfortable fit in the RINCON, just cushioning all the way around, a bit thinner as you get down towards the sole of your foot, but around the top here, nice and cushioned. We've got the pull tab, we have reasonable length laces, and nice simple lacing lock system. I've raved about this in many videos, so I won't go over it again, but again you get a really nice fit. Then of course we have this breathable mesh upper, which is just phenomenal, absolutely brilliant. That goes all the way around, bit of extra cushioning at the heel, but other than that this is all nice and thin and doesn't ruffle up like the Vaporwave does here. Then of course we have the midsole, which is beautiful midsole, a perfect combination between firm and soft, and very limited rubber outsole. Only rubber outsole in these harder wearing areas. That's the yellow that you see on here. That's it. Hoka have really shed some weight doing this. Of course, it impacts longevity. You will have seen that if you saw my comparison between this and the Beacon version 2, comparing the durability and how those two shoes are going. Of course, this thing has well over 100 miles in it now and is holding up well. Once it's shed its first layer of foam off the bottom, it seems to be holding up really nicely. So we've got the very small amounts of outsole rubber there. So that's it. This is a lighter shoe. In terms of construction, my preference is definitely the Rincon, but moving on to performance, how have they both performed? So when it comes to speed, shoes that I'm always looking for are going to be these two shoes, the two shoes in my arsenal that really kind of lend themselves to speed work. Now, for those of you that have watched the channel for a while, you know that this for me is the shoe disappointment of the year 2019. It is a real disappointment. From the original Zoom Fly that I have put so many miles in, this thing was just a real downstep. I didn't try the Flyknit version, so I can't compare the second to this one, but I've got to say from the original to this, it was a bit of a letdown. However, I cannot deny that what I've been doing in this shoe, the workouts, which we'll be talking about in a second, have really delivered. The shoe has delivered. Regardless of how I think and feel about it, the shoe has delivered. Some times that I did not know I was capable of. When I'm hitting that transitional period between training and I'm kind of trying to take myself to the next level, this thing has delivered. And although it frustrates me greatly, and although it's front heavy, and although my heel slips a bit at the back, I cannot deny that I'm running some fast times in this thing. Likewise with this thing, this is just a dream to run in. At the moment, currently my shoe of 2019. And again, I'm putting some decent times in this shoe. But I think surprisingly, this thing is really lending itself to the quicker mileage. Now let me just talk about a couple of workouts that I've done in these shoes more recently to compare the two, because of course we have the Abingdon Marathon coming up this weekend, and I've been experimenting with the speed work leading up to this race. We've only had a couple of weeks to do it, but of course in the previous 2 weeks leading up to Swindon half marathon, we did some workouts in these as well, and again I just want to share my thoughts on them. So if we go to the Zoom Fly, we've done a really decent long tempo run in this thing. I think it was like 9 miles tempo run, and then of course we did more recently 4 by 2 miles on, 2 miles off. Now interestingly, I've never ever run a 2 mile repeat sub 12-minute mile pace. I have never run more than 3 of them, and that night I ran 4 of them, all of them sub 12-minute pace. So all of these things were like 11:55, 11:35, 11:43 and 11:47, something like that. And I remember stopping the watch and thinking, wow, how on earth did I just do that? And I can't overlook the fact that I was wearing this shoe. I can't overlook the fact that when I got tired, this thing kept me going. That is the joy of a carbon fibre plate. That thing just did not let my legs sink into a bad form, sink into bad cadence, sink into bad anything. They just kept me going, and it was an absolute pleasure to run in that night. And I got home and I took them off and I looked at them and I scowled and I thought, ooh, you know, I have such bad feelings towards them, yet they deliver such great performance. In terms of this thing, I knocked out some of the quickest mile reps I've ever done in this thing the other night, clocking 5:40, 5:36, 5:33 and 5:27 when I was doing 4 by 1 mile off with 1 mile on with 1 minute standing rest. With the standing rest, I was trying to keep my heart rate high so that I was working at an intensity that was quite high for a longer period of time, not letting my body relax. So rather than doing 6 by 1 mile reps and having 3 minutes jog recovery to chill out, I was trying to just do 4 miles of more intensive work. And I've got to say, again, I delivered in this shoe. For me, it delivered. And so I'm in such a quandary at the moment as to think which shoe is better. And I think moving forwards, I've got to say that the Zoom Fly 3 is something I'm going to be using still a lot more of, as well as the Rincon if it holds out. So how am I going to be using it moving forwards? This thing for sure, for the longer speed workouts, the long runs. I'm using the New Balance Propel at the moment for a lot of my long runs. This thing is just as comfortable. in terms of taking me the distance. I don't feel fatigued. The two shoes that don't make me feel fatigued on my long runs are the Propel and this thing, which is great. And if I'm going to be lending myself to more of a long run workout, this is certainly what I'm going to be mixing it up with the Propel with, so those two can share those duties. And then the shorter mile reps, maybe the more interval work, 2 minutes on, 3 minutes on, 4 minutes on, is certainly going to be ending up working out in the Hoka. As well as the Beacon, the New Balance Beacon version 2 as well, that's creeping into the lineup as well. But at the moment, these take the 1 and 2 spot. Do I have a preference? My preference, of course, is the Rincon, Team Rincon all the way, but that's just my preference of what I've enjoyed. In terms of preference for speed, I've got to say they match up. They match up in terms of what they deliver. I can't overlook the fact that this shoe is delivering the goods. Regardless of my thoughts and feelings, this shoe is delivering the goods. So to be perfectly honest with you guys, if you've got either of these shoes, you'll probably understand what I'm saying in terms of they both deliver great things. And as I said in the beginning, if you do have either of these shoes, make sure you let me know in the comments below. Leave your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. In terms of comparisons, of course, price point, this thing is a heck of a lot cheaper than this thing, and therefore I would always gravitate towards the Rincon. But if you've got the money to have both, they're both great pairs of shoes to have in the arsenal. So those are my thoughts, guys. I hope you appreciate them. If you did, make sure you give the video a like, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. The new GoPro Hero 8 is being delivered this week, so fingers crossed as of next week we can get back out on the trails for some long runs, for some workouts and for some trail running videos. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here, share it with your friends, do all that good stuff, and I will see you on the next one. Until then.